Okay, this is a response video to a video that I posted where I asked the question, is urban gardening just a bunch of YouTube hype, or is it actually doable? And in particular, the Back to Eden gardening method that there's been so much talk about. This is sort of a panoramic view of the area that we used this summer. We got the garden started, and just about the time it came up, school was over. So the students were no longer here. Then the school moved, and so this garden was largely abandoned. But let me show you just a couple of things I noticed. This was a wood pile that we had not yet had a chance to spread. Sorry about the airplanes. We're right under the Atlanta Airport's runway. Look at how robust, how large the weeds are that just border this wood pile as compared to just a few feet out of it, okay? That kind of talks about the wood chip's ability to hold moisture and to provide some level of nutrients. That's one of the big key points of the Back to Eden video, is that the wood chips act like little sponges and hold the moisture. Now, the other thing that they talked about was the weeds. Now, our students and community service workers spread these wood chips. They didn't have a lot of fun doing it, so the wood chips are much thinner than what I had really wanted. But to the point, the weeds that are here, look at that. They just pull right out. There's no weeds snapping off. There's no all the way up from the ground. So the premise that these wood chip gardens could be weeded easily or with a rake, that seems also to be true. Now let's walk over here. We had some tomatoes that we had planted. We planted these tomatoes late. We planted them up by the fence, and then we moved. The tomato plants didn't really do a whole lot through the summer at my house, but look at these. These tomato plants are not staked. They're just laying here, but they're in great shape. There's a ton of little blossoms and little tomatoes back up here in these tomatoes. Where we go up here, you can see some actually ripe tomatoes, the Roma variety tomatoes, and then these little, I think they call them grape tomatoes, these small cherry tomatoes. I think we'll take these home. They're ripe, they're doing really well. On up the fence line, we see some beans that have produced and have come back, and now that the weather's a little cooler, they're setting blossoms again. And we've got this little run of cowpeas, and you can see they're just absolutely full of pods. I could probably bring these home and have dried beans. This was a harvest wasted. But all of this grew absolutely unattended. We took a urban parking lot that was crush and run. See, when we go right over the other side of the fence, you can see the gravel parking lot, and then with just an addition of about a 6-inch layer of wood chips on this side of the fence, lush. When we get up to where the students built the raised beds, we see some remnants of what they planted. We've got some Swiss chard here going absolutely crazy, and a watermelon. Here we have pepper plant with peppers, another pepper plant, another pepper plant, a tomato plant which has died, but you can see that it was once full of tomatoes. And when I see the amount of squash and cucumbers that were here, this was all produce that was available had this garden simply been tended. Now that the heat's calmed down a little bit, we're setting more watermelon. There's another watermelon that kind of died on the vine. Watermelon that's still growing. And same thing up in this bed. Tomato plants, The corn is done. Out in this area, the vines are gone. There's no real weeds, and you can see all of the squash and cucumbers, again, that would have been available out of a parking lot with wood chips had there simply been someone here this summer to tend the garden. As we walk up here, again, Swiss chard. Look at these beets. Beets that were here. Again, peppers, tomatoes. In here, kale. I think that kale is ready to come back now that it's starting to cool off. That kale will grow in through the winter. Over here we have some winter squash with a bunch of squash beetles on them now. And again, tomato plants, Swiss chard, and kale that came through the summer. A couple of watermelon over there. So I gotta say, I believe that this back to Eden gardening method was a legitimate method. We were in a crush and run parking lot. We decided to cheat it up a little bit. We bought some compost, and where we planted, we put about 6 inches of compost, and then we just covered it up with wood chips, and then we had some ground wood chips here. So great results for a parking lot garden. That's it. Brad from Stockbridge. Thanks.